Howdy, folks. So it's 10 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Another episode of Unhindered by Coding. I'm Nick, and we'll be here till noon. Trying to fix a problem with some issues. Well, hello, esitsu. Wonderful to see you again. I hope you can help because I am quite confused about the checkbox state problem. It may just be that using the use state handle was a bad idea, but I don't know. It's unclear to me what's going on. So we got to fix this problem, and that will be the primary goal of the day. Then we'll see how quickly or not quickly we get through that in today's stream. So let's actually hit things and see if we... Oh, and just a reminder, so the QR code, early in the morning, still coping poorly, is an invite link to the Discord, and it'd be wonderful to have you there. So let's find our code. So this is the code that is giving us trouble. So actually probably be worth trunk serve having a look at the weirdness before we look at the code. So I changed the settings so that there's only two repositories per page, because it makes it easier to look at the maps in the console logging. And it's quite weird because it seems like everything's happening, it's just happening out of sync and delayed in strange and mysterious ways. So, let's see, JavaScript console. Hello, there we go. No, I don't want that down there. So we have a lot of pages because we only have very exciting. Now then, more things to learn about. Yeah. It's good. It's all good. Got the two archives. We have the current state, which has both of them. Where can I find? Hello. So there's ID 2235. And where's my next ID? Oh, here's my other ID. This is just... No, hang on. Oh yeah, this is just the list of repositories. So this doesn't have the state map being printed. Now if I click this, then I get an updated state map, which has this being true when it should be false because its clicky has been undone, and this being true, which is correct because its clicky is still checked. Now the weird thing is if I do this again, it flips back. So now this is false. It's sort of the opposite of what this was expecting. And this is still true. Now, we'd figured this out before. The weird thing is that I discovered offline is if I click this, the state of this will fix itself. So right now, this is false when it should be true. If I click this, which shouldn't change the state of the other repository, then lo and behold, that one is true like it should be. And this one is now off. If I click this, it will fix this one, but then the first one will be off. Boom. So now this is correct. This is false like it should be, and that's true. So it's like everything's one step behind somehow. And I don't really understand how that's possible. It's like it's remembering what it needs to do, it just hasn't done it yet. Which, I had a thought this morning that maybe somehow this had to do with threading and events not threading because we're in JavaScript, but somehow events in the JavaScript queue, and that we were somehow one step behind the event queue. But I did a little looking and I couldn't find any evidence that there was any threading, any spawning happening anywhere that would potentially explain that. So I really don't understand this, which makes attempting to fix it kind of awkward. I think that our suspicion from before that it was the use state handle in the properties is the right suspicion, and in the absence of any other suggestion, I feel like that's probably what we're going to need to do, is just replace that with something more direct and then clone the heck out of everything. But I would prefer to actually understand why this is happening, and the fact that it feels like we're just kind of one step out of sync is very frustrating, actually. Very frustrating indeed. Feels like it's perhaps fixable. But like I said, I've spent some time and could not come to any understanding of what was going on and why it was happening. The code in question that's doing most of the printing that we're talking about is here in the paginator. So on checkbox change is a callback, and this is the callback that's passed through the repository list to the repository card. So when the repository card emits right here, so this on checkbox change here is what it got passed to it. It emits, this leads to this call here. So we're getting callback with a desired archive state, which is what we were passing right here. And we know that this is happening because we've got all this console logging coming out, and everything looks great until we get to these two things here. Don't seem to be right. Like this step somehow isn't doing the desired thing. So archive state map, set new map. If we look back here, let's see. So old archive state map before set. So that's right here. So this is the new map, which has false and false, which is correct. This is the old map before we called the set, and it's got true and false. Now, where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Because I would have thought we would have come straight down to updated archive state map, which is down here. But we've got these two console logs, which imply that there is some kind of interleaving of events, which could actually be the problem. So maybe that interleaving of events is the issue. Because I would have expected us to come down here, and you would have liked this to be the new map with false and false, and yet it is instead true and false. It's off by 1. And if we look up the setting for this first thing, it says it's true when it ought to be false. But why do we have that paginator is called with this organization? Is it because we clicked on something and that modified the dependencies for the paginator, and the paginator contemplated redrawing itself? So let's look for paginator called. Paginator called. So this is the very top of the paginator component, and it was called somehow in the middle while we were processing the callback. Well, that's odd. And I guess it's possible that we could be getting some kind of overwriting. Okay, so these things don't do anything because the state already exists, and so it doesn't overwrite the old state, because the dependencies are still the same. The organization and the current change haven't changed. So I don't think either of these get overwritten, which makes sense because when we print the entries in the archive state map, we are getting that there are still 2 entries in the archive state map, which is what we would expect. And then we have use effect with dep, which just sets up the dependencies, and that should not change anything. And then here's our let on checkbox change, which we're passing in. Oh, it's in button callback. So let checkbox change. No, where does that get? Let checkbox. Oh, sorry. On checkbox change. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's just being passed in to the repository list. So somehow we're getting to here and it is coming back up here. That's whack. Now, does having this let here does this somehow, because this is being executed again. The definition of the callback is being executed again. And then, so is that messing with things? Oh. Actually, I'm not sure now that I think about it. This is a callback, which is an enum. And we have a curly brace, so this is just going to be the last value in the curly brace, which is going to be this callback here. So does this actually web sys console log 1 format bang, we at the start of defining on checkbox change dot into boom bump. Now let that compile. La 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 la. And esitsu, I do not really know anything about generic associated types. I haven't been tracking that this was a big thing. So if you have a resource on why it's cool that generic associated types are now stabilized, I would love to have a pointer. So yeah, so we at the start of defining on checkbox change. So we do we will grab that. Come on. Give me a thing. Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. So where was I? Yeah, so we do come into this. Does that redefine this? I mean, why are we even here? Why are we in this code? Especially at kind of in the middle like this. Like we get part way through let checkbox change or on checkbox change, and then it somehow So I wonder, is it because we're taking the map and we are updating it so that modifies the archive state map, and the archive state map is part of the state of the, oh, maybe that is the thing. Maybe we're actually modifying the state map right here, because this clone isn't cloning the whole map, it's only cloning the handle that points to the map. And archive state map, yeah. And so if we modify it by calling update desired state, we are modifying the state of one of the state elements of the component. And so the component jumps in and changes itself or redraws itself, and then comes back to here. Oh, maybe that's the thing. Ah, and that would explain why it's out of sync. I think it redraws itself, then comes back and finishes here. But weirdly enough, this doesn't that doesn't force a redraw. Which seems real strange to me. That update desired state forces a redraw, but archive state does not. Or the archive state map set does not. So what happens in update desired state? That's a function right here. Nope. Where is that? Go to definition. So we clone the map and we update. Well, that's interesting. So somehow making a new state here modifies the existing state in a way that causes it to redraw itself? Blarg? So we've got this console, the resulting map was, and that happens right here. So the redraw happens down here. Let's see, here's our checkbox change. So we do update desired state and we print new map and old archive. So actually we print both of these. So it is actually this that's changing things. Oh, okay. So this didn't change the state and cause a redraw. This changes the state and causes a redraw. But it isn't right. And these two things print the old state. Wow. I'm a whole lot confused. This clone should be okay. I wonder if this is somehow the issue. That I'm letting Rust turn a use state handle into an actual archive state map here. And I'm side effecting. Well, but it doesn't really matter because I'm not actually side effecting it because I clone it and I return a new one. And the old one's still what it was. When we printed it, the old one hasn't changed. So frustrating. Really not sure. I mean, part of me feels like we should just suck it up and assume that the problem is the using the state handle in the properties. So where was that even? Props. Who? Organization. It's not there. Okay. So the archive state map is passed as a handle to the repository list. And it is used to get the desired state. Oh. So it could be that that's the problem. That if this is out of sync because we're using use state handle, then this could get drawn incorrectly. So that's dimly possible. And then we don't pass that to the card. The card props is just, yeah. So the only thing that gets that archive state map passed in is the repository list. Well, maybe we just, as an experiment, because it wouldn't be hard, we, I want to actually commit first, just because I think I've made a couple of minor comment level changes. Oh, and changing the number of pages and adding some prints. Yeah. Change temporarily the repos per page to 2. Boom. I'm going to close the door here because the phone's ringing. Should have closed that door before. Apologies. Okay. We're still going to hear the door. Well, hello, Wgaffa. So, thinking about your comment, esitsu, you're saying, I'm thinking that regardless of if you passed the handle or not, you would still have the same value whether you called it inside the card or not. I mean, I sort of agree with you. That's one of the things that I find confusing is it feels like passing the state handle here, if all we're doing is looking up the repository idea, or the repository state, I feel like that ought to work. But the fact that we're kind of out of sync by one step makes me wonder if somehow this is by passing the state handle, we're kind of behind one somehow here. I don't know quite how that would happen, but yeah, I don't know. But I was thinking it wouldn't be hard, given that I'm really confused. Like, you know, we spent half an hour here talking and not really gotten anywhere. It would not be a difficult experiment to add. We could leave this alone. We could add another properties element that is a clone of the state map and change this to use the clone and see if magically something better happens. Because I am clone map archive state map comma, and here we'll use clone map, and we'll need clone map, and that now all compiles, but the paginator should fail because it should pass that, and clone map should be archive state map dot clone. And that all needs to be in curly braces, doesn't it? Oops, too many. There we go. Now I think that will compile. No. What? Must. So no. Oh, deref. No. Doesn't know how to deref that. Oh. Okay, because that will, the deref will turn it into an actual map, and then in theory we could clone, but we get a borrow problem. Because we moved it here and we don't have it here anymore. Can I just change the order? That would be crude. No, yeah, I'm wondering. Since the props are by name, in theory, the order doesn't matter. Nope, didn't like that still. Well, maybe. Well, all right. Here we go. It's still. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if actually you have to change the order in the struct. Might have to change the order in the struct, which would be weird, but I mean, this feels very hacky, to be honest with you. I don't think this fixed anything. No, I didn't like it any better. So it's moved here. So do I have to clone? Can I clone this one? Since that's just a use state handle, I ought to be able to clone it freely. Oh, okay. That seemed to have fixed that issue. So I think we compile now. And we'll see if come on, build, finish building. Oh, enough. Okay. Looks like we're gonna win here. Now, I honestly don't think this is gonna have made any difference, but why not try? Nope. Still true when it should be false. And fixing this does actually change that back to false. Oh. Oh, but that's true when it should be false. And that's false. That's just so weird that, like, the other piece. So, true. Yeah. So this is currently marked as false when it should be true. This is marked as true, which is correct. And if I change this one, it fixes the first one. That's now true when it should be true. But this is behind by 1. And it's true when it ought to be false. That is just so annoying. And so obviously the use state handle was not the issue, because removing it didn't make things better. So I don't think the use state handle actually is the problem. I think that we can get rid of clone map here. I don't think it's the issue. Oh, yeah, we don't need that anymore. And now everybody looks like it compiles. So, oh, and actually I was going to change the paginator. I was going to change this to 3. It'd still be pretty small and lookable, but I wanted to see if my assumptions about it being 1 behind were correct. And I think that would be easier to see if we have at least 3. Okay, now if I change the first one, it is true when it ought to be false. And the second one is true, which is correct. And the last one is true, which is correct. Now if I uncheck, let's say, the third one, it's true, which is incorrect. But the first one is false, which is correct. And if I uncheck the middle one, then the first is false, which is correct. The second is false, which is correct. And the third is true, which is incorrect. Huh? Is that really the third one? No, this is the middle one. Okay. By name, lab 1, HTML, blah, 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 blah. That's actually this guy right here. So it is the one that's wrong, and the other two are correct. And if we change the first one, it is false, which is wrong. The other two are false, which is correct. Yeah, so it does seem like it somehow all but the last change are being recognized, but the last change is in the system somewhere. Excuse me. Because when we click another thing, then it fixes the one we had before. So some part of the world is remembering that the state's been updated. And I don't know if that's I don't know. I'm really confused by this. If like we were just losing the change, that would be a thing I feel like I know kind of what to do with. But as it is, somehow we do this, it doesn't move us forward, but then next time around it does. That is just so weird. Actually, here we just print how many entries there are. I'm going to actually print the whole state map. The current archive state map. Go away. Recompile. Come on. So let's see. Let me think about. So you're suggesting if the updated state map that I'm printing is actually the old value, and set doesn't actually update the value it contains. So set is supposed to replace the value internally with the value that's passed in. I think. We could go to let's see, predefined hooks. Come on. Use state. So we counter has a state, clone it, so we set it, and that should update the new state. So I think set's doing the thing that we want. I don't know, right? If I knew, then we would be done. What does that caution say? The value held in the handle will reflect the value at the time the handle is returned by use state. It's possible the handle does not dereference to an up-to-date value if you're moving it into a use effect with depths hook. You can register the state to the dependence so the hook can be updated when the value changes. Do we pass that part of the state into use effect with depths? Good question. We pass in the so the use effect with depths gets, we do pass that in the call to update state for organization, which means it gets moved in because it's not an explicit argument, so it's getting moved in. And so the caution probably applies. And it would make sense that the handle does not dereference to an up-to-date value. That would be consistent with what we're seeing. You can register the state to the dependence so the hook can be updated when the value changes. Register the state to the dependence. So I think that means we're adding it to the list of dependents. If the state were actually wrong. Oh, that's an interesting point. Maybe it's worked all along, and I just thought it wasn't working because of the print statements. Oh, because as you say, the rendering of a card, whether it's clicked, is a function of the desired archive state, which is passed in as a property, and that comes from the repository list, and that is coming out of the state map. And so the fact that the checkboxes all look right, they're not flipping back to some other state, suggests that what's being passed in is correct. It's just that the prints are off. And we don't really care about the prints. I mean, that's all was just there for kind of debugging and confirmation that the world wasn't broken. If I had had a test, which I keep feeling I really ought to have some tests, if I had a test that did something like click the checkbox in the card and confirm that the new state was updated, that test might fail depending on how it got written. But maybe this has just been a lot of faffing about for nothing. Interesting. And actually, one thing I've never thought about doing, UMM CSI 3601 S20, if I were to uncheck that And now, if I go to the next page, we should have a larger map. And I wonder if the repository in question, which was, actually if I go back here, this is still unchecked, lab 0 intro to get everyone, and it is false now. And if I go forward 1, it is still false. If I go backward and check it, it'll be false, but if I go forward, it's true. And if I come back to it, it's true. So I actually think you're right. I think maybe it's been right all along, and we've spent an hour and a half or something going trying to solve a problem that wasn't really broken because I didn't read the documentation carefully, which probably describes a far larger percentage of software development experience than any of us would want to admit in a public setting. So, oops. Thank you, esitsu, for, both of you for pointing out, esitsu and Wgaffa for pointing out that we should read that caution. I'm not very good at that. And esitsu for pointing out that maybe everything was fine, because I do kind of think now that everything's fine. Yeah, definitely no bugs. And certainly no bugs because we just didn't read the documentation carefully. Okay, well that's exciting. So I think then, if we trust that the archive state map is correct, then I think the thing we want is to add a button somewhere that's like, okay, great, you've been through all the pages, archive, hit the button that says archive everybody that you've selected, and then it would generate a new page that is a list of all the archives that have been checked. And do we want... So as a user interface question, do we want that page to have checkboxes so that they can continue to modify the state, and then a big yes confirm button, or just the big confirm button, and if they want to modify the state they come back here? I feel like you probably want to just have checkboxes right there, just in case, because it's essentially is this really what you want to do? But having to come back to this page seems awkward. And in a lot of circumstances, this would be like a dialog box. Like, do you really want to do this? But since we might have 50 or 100 repositories, putting that in a dialog box seems like a very bad idea. So I think actually a different page probably makes more sense. So that we can just pass another page, pass the archive state map to that page as a prop, and then probably just reuse repository list and repository card, but not repository paginator, and get the page we want. I think that might make sense. And that's going to require that I remember how the heck all this stuff works. Actually, if we go back to main, so main has the router. Because we think of this as routing from the top. So I think we want to add a route here at ice-repos submit. And we want to go to the submit component. And we need a comma. And the submit component. Oh, how do we move data between? Oh, we gotta match this guy down here. Oh, we could probably pass in data here? Question mark? No, actually I don't know how that would work. Submit. Oh. Oh yeah, I just want a component. Yeah, that's what I'm starting to run into, is I'm not sure how the data moves from the one place to the other. I think might need to do a little reading for a second, since we learned the hard way. So I need to have an path segments. No, I don't need segments. I need to pass a piece of information around. Am I going to have to do a context after all, so that I have access to this? Navigation, link. Function components. History, I don't really care about history. Struct components, no. Redirect, no, not helpful. Listening to changes. There's also a use location and use route. Your components will re-render when the provided values change. Maybe we need to look at use location and use route. Definitely don't want a query parameter. We don't want to put that whole map in So let's actually predefine hooks, which use location, which isn't there. Is that custom hooks? No, I don't think so. Well, let's see if this example tells us something. Source main. And so much stuff. So link router, so that goes to a place. So Yewdux, I presume, is a state management system like Redux. Another option, which I've been thinking about anyway, is to do contexts and have the archive state map and the organization be in a context, and everybody would have access to that context without having to pass it around. It would basically become a global variable. This would presumably do something similar. So we get a storage, gives us a state and a dispatch. A dispatch we can use to update things, and the state we can use to access things. And then how does that work across so I think this context agnostic is one of the distinctions. Context applies to some point in the DOM and everybody below it, but isn't visible sort of laterally or vertically up from there. Whereas I think this is truly global. It's available to everybody. How do I feel about that? I don't know. But it would certainly simplify things. And given how long we've spent futzing, maybe doing something that would work. So we certainly have needless clones in spades. So we specify a root. We have a simple state called Atom. And then you can have the use Atom hook. So username, we can clone it, and that presumably is a ref, so that clone is not problematic. We can call set. we can get its value. Oh, we can make things that are use only, read only. Now what? How is this better than just the existing state? I presume we can see it down in sub components. Yeah, so we have a functional component setter that has the atom. And resetter. So presumably, and reader uses the atom. So they're all the same atom. So presumably you can only have one of these, or something bad happens, I suspect. Now, do I think that's better or worse than this? And how... Subscriptions, what does that look like? Subscribing to change. Functional hooks like use store will subscribe automatically. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. So counters automatically updated when the global state changes. Listeners are componentless subscribers. We don't need to worry about that, I don't think. So the store represents state that is shared application-wide, is initialized on first access, and lives for the lifetime of the application. So maybe that is the thing to do. And I think that's potentially a significant rewrite, because if we do this right, I think we can avoid a lot of the cloning that we were doing before. And instead just having everything in a global store. Now, I guess the other question is, why would we use that rather than context? Oh, actually, here's the context thing. So we have the theme, we have a context demo, and let's do a function. Oh, food. Come on. There we go. So the themed button, we say use context theme, and we get the context, and then we can do our stuff with it. I don't know. Is Yewdux going to be better or worse? Much different than a context? And is bounce better, worse? Oh no, I don't immediately see a particular advantage to any of these. They claim, right, the argument is that well, in this propagate state through potentially isolated layers of components, I think that's what we've run into. Says use context manager does a decent job and is worth serious consideration. However, it requires substantial boilerplate and is not that easy to use. But why? What boilerplate are we talking about here? We have to define a struct. We have to say we're using state on that struct. We have to say that provides a context. So we would wrap that around the outermost part of the world. That doesn't seem all that complicated. And then people that don't want to use the context don't have to. But things that do want to use the context would just ask for it. And then they have the information. I don't immediately see why this is a big deal. How do we, although I guess I don't know how we set the context. One hopes there is a set option for context. Better be, or this is really quite pointless. Let's see if we go to API context handle thumped drop from maybe context provider, create, change, view, update. So there is an update that is called when a new message is sent to the component via its scope. That is actually probably not what we wanted. I mean, it's got to be settable. There's no way that you can't change the context at some point. Well, let's boldly context provider. That's what we were just looking at. Unless context provider props, clone, thumped, eek, not eek, builder, borrow from, into. Let's try context. I say let's give that a shot. Which means we want, we're going to need our context to wrap around see, I need the function component. No, predefined host. Use context. I'm going to need to create a state and wrap a context provider around everybody who wants access to that state. So the app or the home page. I think the app, actually. I think I want to wrap it around the whole thing. So I'm going to want a use state is going to give me a thing. So let ctx equals use state, and this is going to have to be a new struct. App context, boom, bop, bip. Yeah. And that means I'm going to have an app context thing, which is going to have to be defined. Oh, that's so weird. Struct app context, and that's going to need to have clone, debug, and partial EQ. And that is nothing at the moment. Why are you? Oh, this needed to be in outside the HTML, didn't it? Yeah. Oops. That'll be better. Can I use context at the page level? I could, but since I want the same context to be visible on both pages, so I'm basically going to set the context on the paginator business. So the context will have the organization name and the map with all the checkbox information. I'm going to want to access that on the other page, which is the, hey, this is what you've got. Do you want to submit this? And so I feel like I want it here. I want the context here so that it'll be available at both of those places. But I'm open to arguments to the contrary if you feel like I'm putting it in the wrong place, because I've got, pretty much zero experience with React and its friends, and obviously I'm figuring out, Rust and Vue. So if you think that stuff belongs somewhere else, I'm happy to consider that. So the app context is going to have organization, which is going to be a string, And I'm going to want my, where do I define my archive state map? There we are. Basically going to want that thing. Which means this probably needs to move up. Oh, and this is meant to camel case, and I did that wrong. App context. Yeah. And so initially, oh, and actually organization probably ought to be an option. Unless the whole thing's an option? And I guess I don't really need this to be a separate thing, right? This just really should just be this. I don't think I need any of that. And we're going to have to import some stuff. And we have to import some stuff. So I guess if this was option string, then we could default here to none, comma, hash map new. Why are you grumpy? Hash map, : new. Rawr. Okay, what is going on here? Oh, well, I guess we have all this submit stuff. So maybe there's some other error that is blocking the world. Maybe I should deal with all the submit business first. If we get rid of submit stuff for now. App not found in this scope. What was 125? What? How did that? Function component app. Oh, it's because this isn't compiling. So if I comment this out, would be okay, right? Yeah, okay, so it compiles. So why does this not do not. Property names. Not sure I am following. So state maps. Is it the pub part? Organization none. Oops. Oh, do I have to be... Oh, I get it. Because these are not just being done in order. If I... Yeah, okay, fine. Thank you. Save the day. Again. Yeah. Okay, so that took too long. I clearly thought they could just be done in, I was just assuming they could be done in order and not have to be named, but if the name doesn't match the value, you do have to actually be explicit about it, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so now we should have a context that is visible to everybody from there down. And so... here, this organization entry well, it didn't do the thing I wanted it to do. Was organization entry in here? No, it's got its own thing. I thought it did. So organization entry, now instead of having to so currently it emits back here, right here. It emits the value of the field. And in theory, all of that field stuff should be accessible from the context. And that wherever we use field, we ought to be able to just use the context. Let's see. The docs wrap the context in an RC because the context needs to be cloned. Isn't having the context be a state effectively wrapping it in an RC so that we can do cloning when we need to? Oh, and I guess we need this context provider business. So this state is derefed. Oh yeah, we're not cloning the state, are we? Context is type RC, use state handle theme. Well, we need theme, so we deref it. So it derefs to reference theme, hence the clone. So this is a reference to a theme. And so when you say the docs, are you talking probably down here? So you think we just want an RC state? Theme. Okay, well, we could try that. Oops, no, I didn't want that. This. Presumably, you'd need interior mutability, because otherwise I don't know how you'd update the context state. Which maybe this is the argument for why Yewdux or bounce would be better. I mean, I was assuming we'd use state and then we'd call .set and .get on the state. So I was thinking it would be like this example where we pass the state around. But you're right, they sort of undo that here, which seems weird. And here we get a straight up theme. So maybe maybe something like Yewdux would be preferable, because then we would have more explicit setting and getting stuff. Because here they've got these guys. Oh, we got a whole bunch of examples. We haven't been in there. But we can get the store, and then counter lets us read things, and dispatch lets us change things. And we can call this wherever we want, and we will have access to those pieces. And dispatch has got stuff, so we can call set. We can call set with a callback. We can call reduce. And there are mute versions. So dispatch reduce mute versus reduce takes the thing and makes a new thing, and reduce mute just modifies it in place. Oh. Interesting. Now it says that it requires store to implement clone, which suggests that they're going to be cloning stuff internally. And you won't know when that happens. Whereas here you would know you were making a new thing, and you would know what you were copying. Yeah, so here you're setting it directly, and there's probably a set mute that doesn't do that. And then there's messages, which So maybe Yewdux is the thing to do, unless we don't think. So I'm curious. if I come back, so I hadn't done the context provider. If I grab this, and then that would have been down here, and they've got it around this part. And we would provide an app context, which is probably a terrible name. And it is not happy about that. Oh, that's because there's no closing tag. Context provider. And I presume that goes, yeah, it goes below there. Not happy. Blah. Oh, we've got to have the app context around it. Okay. Now, does this have to have CTX clone? If I just do that, it's going to fail. Yeah, so that does sound like it needs to become an app context. Just cloning isn't going to do the job. No. So that is going to be dereferencing. That's going to give us an app context. Well, it's a reference to an app context. And so we're cloning that reference. And that then is what's passed around, a reference to the app context. But it's not a state anymore. So we don't have any of the mutability tools, which does make me think Yewdux might be the better plan. Well, through. Okay. Then, cargo add Yewdux. Program web development, such a pain. I'm much happier writing server-side code, frankly, but such is the way of the world. Trunk serve open again. That will probably, so we need to undo all this context stuff. Well, maybe not undo it, because we'll replace it with something. But I think this part goes away. Bring you back. So let's go to the Yewdux documentation. So we're going to have, our state is going to have to derive a whole bunch of stuff, including store. So this is going to need to derive a whole bunch of things. Now store, I would assume, is going to be grumpy because it doesn't know what that is. Why is that actually working? Because I would have thought we would have needed something like this. Oh, I guess we had you. That's weird. Do we compile? Yeah, we actually compile. That seems slightly strange, but then we will need to use the store at appropriate points. But we can use it in any component. So, and we don't need it in any of this stuff, so we don't need any of that. Oh, were we like taking forever to build? Apparently. Oh, but we don't even build. Trait EQ is not implemented for repository. Well, that's interesting. So we're going to need repository. If we're going to use Yewdux, repository is going to have to have EQ as well as partial EQ. And that's going to take care of that. Now, at some point, all of this stuff is going to have to be, we're going to have to pub some stuff here, but I think, but we can ignore it for the hot minute. So let's go find organization entry. In theory, ought to be able to yeah, I definitely have opinions. But in fairness, my opinions are largely uninformed. I haven't, as is kind of obvious watching me flail around here, I haven't done very much of it. And I'm not as informed as I would like to be, where they feel more confident in my opinions on more back-end software development. But that said, obviously web development's a big deal in the world, and I want my students to be able to participate in that space for jobs, if nothing else. And so having some better understanding of what's going on seems to be important. So I'm stabbing myself in the eye repeatedly by building this thing. Now, in the organization entry component, if we pass the organization back through the shared state, then we still want some kind of callback to say that something's happened, but it doesn't have to actually send back a string. It could just send back nothing, a unit, because we don't need, let's see, where is that? Organization entry, we pass in an onSubmit. OnSubmit takes a string. We don't really need the string here. Do we need anything? Sure, because this. Oh, so this may be an issue with using Yewdux. Is we're going to have to like tell things when to update. But like here, we pass the paginator some stuff, and we really don't need to pass that to the paginator anymore, because the paginator will get that from the Yewdux state. But we do need to make sure the paginator redraws. So we need to make sure that the depths side on the paginator depends on the organization that comes from the Yewdux state and not from the properties. So I think we don't. So we do want the organization name here, but I don't think we have to pass in anything here. I think we just could say bleh. Oops. Bleh. Bleh. And then here, this organization.clone is where does that so it gets displayed here, and that's only if it's not empty. So we really want this to be, this goes away, and we want let organization, actually we're going to have to say let, what does it look like? Let counter or dispatch. App state organization. We don't care about the map. Oh yeah, we wanted that. And we don't care about the dispatch to be uStore and app state that. Why are we grumpy here? Expect identifier, app state organization. Oh, do I need to? I probably need to actually list them. Where'd my app state go? There it is. Archive state map. Okay, fine. And that's because this isn't pub, I bet. Oh, and it's app. Oh, this should be app state. That was the problem, actually. Yeah, okay. Oh. So probably doing this pattern match here was not a good choice. let's just say state, and then let organization equals state dot organization. Boom. And then now instead of is empty, we want to say not is none. Although actually I could probably do an if let there, couldn't I? Yeah, if let some organization equals organization, and now this is a string, so I don't need all this faffing about. Oh, that's just because we don't have the right pieces being passed in yet. Now this would be set some string, and we'll have to change that. Oh, but it's not set. We're setting the whole state. Actually, I don't even think we need this callback, to be honest with you. I'm feeling we can just get rid of this. I don't think this is going to need a callback. And then organization entry, props. Don't really need any props, I don't think, because I don't think we need a callback anymore. So I think we just, that becomes that. And we don't need any of this. And we're not going to need so we are going to want to have an on click here and an on input to update the state. So we're going to need to get we don't care about the map. So we're going to have to import that. Okay, we're going to need, what happened here? Change that to that. Is that going to be an improvement? Don't know. Oh, I think I probably just did the use store, not store. Use store. And we're grumpy. Oh, I didn't do prelude here. So actually, I really wanted Yewdux. Prelude. Yewdux. Prelude. Star. And we don't have app state because that's over in main. Huh. I wonder if app state really ought to be, what's in repository? You have repository and desired archive state. I think app state probably ought to be over there. And repository is probably not the right name for that anymore, but details. Now main is going to need to import app state. Hello? Come on down to the bottom. Oh, repository doesn't compile because we don't know about you. Use Yewdux, prelude, star. And then hash map's going to have to be brought in. Which is la 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 la. And my CPU seems to be grinding pretty hard as I sort of continually flail to get stuff to compile. I hope that that's not affecting you folks at your end. So this part seems to be compiling, so we come back here. So right now we don't even import repository over here. Interesting. So we're going to have to import all of that stuff. That's kind of too bad. So that's the state. What we care about is the organization. Is state.org. What is going on? Oh, it's private, of course. Well, this is where we have to open things up or create some tools for managing that. I don't really want to get into that right now. Oh, interesting. So field contents is actually still going to need to be a string that everybody refers to here, and it's really when we get submit, and we would have done this emit. I think that's where we set the state in set the organization in the state, and up to that point we probably want to be using a local thingamadoogie. Now, does it need to be a state, or can it be just a string? Maybe it actually wants to be a state here. And then on submit, actually all of this stuff can come down into on submit. So now's where we have to like deal with a set. So we're going to have to say, so this is going to need a dispatch. And we're going to need to say dispatch dot set. And we want to pass in an app state. App state. Field contents. And state dot map. Oh, we need names. Same problem. I'm trying to use organization and map, state map. Is it map? Archive state map. Archive state map. Fine. Nope, no, undo. Archive state map. There we go. Let's put you that way and you this way and bring you down there. So we make a new app state with the oh, right. So this needs to be some field contents. And technically, if field contents is empty, we probably just don't want to do any of this. So we're gonna have to deref. Yeah. And then we don't need to do that. So if field contents is empty, we probably don't want to do any of this. If field contents is empty, or if it's not empty, then do stuff. And oh, do we lose ownership? What? Scroll down the bottom. Yeah, so it's ownership problem. Can't move out of dereference. So we have to clone the field contents, have to clone. Is that true? Oh, I think I probably have parens. Yeah, and I think that I decided the other day that I liked .deref.clone better. Oh, except that didn't work. Oh, I would have to import dref. Do I want to do that? Sure, why not? Because I do like that reading better. Now, here we have a problem. That it's going to want to clone the state map. And I guess I don't know whether Yewdux... Oh, it's after 12. I should wrap this thing up. I got stuff I got to get done. I don't know if Yewdux is going to be like smart about this and only clone what it has to, or maybe the mistake is maybe I really wanted to, maybe bundling things into a single app state was the mistake. Maybe I actually want organization to be one thing and the map to be the other. And then I don't end up cloning the one when I'm changing the other. I think that's probably true. I think that actually makes more sense. In which case, this would really be so you think if I use reduce mute instead of set, where was I? I was here. So the issue is using set, and so that if I use reduce mute, which dispatch, whoa, no, stop it, dispatch reduce mute takes the whole thing and lets you update however you see fit. So it would be dispatch reduce mute. We would take the whole state and we would say state dot organization equals some field contents dot dref dot clone. And then it would be smart enough to not modify the state map at that point. That's good. I like that. So that's definitely preferable. Now, it's still not clear to me that we... Oh, and so this actually could have been underscore. Not clear to me that we don't want the two of them to be separate, though. Although logically keeping them together kind of makes some sense. And if this avoids a lot of cloning, we're still probably okay. And once we've cloned this into the state, I don't think we'll ever need to clone it out again. I think it only needs to be cloned when it gets loaded into the state, and we should be okay after that. Now, why are you grumpy? Oh, because I moved you. Import that. And we've changed repository paginator so it's not taking the callbacks, but we haven't actually, well, we've changed the call to not passing the callbacks, but we haven't changed repository paginator to not taking the callbacks. Okay, I think we should quit there, so that we're not here all day. And I do have to run and take care of some appointments. So I'm going to stop there. I will be here just to go over the next several days. I will be here tomorrow night doing evolutionary computation, and esitsu and I can have a long discussion about how to best do pipelines, and whether iterators or channels will be our better tool. And I have thoughts, but I don't have clarity. And then I will be here then Saturday. Both sessions should happen. So we'll come back to ice-repos and try to figure out if we can get the Yewdux state thing to work. I think starting from a standing start, we can hopefully get that sorted out in Saturday's session. And then Saturday afternoon, I will return to the Echo client server stuff, and I think we'll actually build the client part, because I think we have the server in pretty good shape. So thank you all for your help and your feedback. I really appreciate it. And it's a bit of a struggle, but we're getting there. And I will see everybody later. Ciao.